Well, no, the thing is, when you write one book, like my first Shelby book was the complete book of Shelby, where I really endeavored to have every Shelby project,
Right.
every car he ever did was in there. The Shelby Can-Am car, the turbine cars,
Sure.
every car he ever did, Shelby Dodges, the Vipers, all the obscure stuff was in there.
Right.
The Shelby Mexico, everything was in there. And it was more of like a encyclopedia, like a jumping off point for people. And the next one I did, was the Cobra 50 Years book, which really celebrated the history of the Cobra and the people and what the Cobra created and how it's still going strong today. Like some guys even have them as a backdrop.
Right.
Um,
I wonder
so,
where that came from.
but it's funny when you write a book and then all of a sudden you get phone calls and emails from people saying, my dad did this for Shelby, or I have
Right.
all these pictures my uncle took.
Right.
And it's just this kind of, or it just builds organically where all of a sudden you have people calling you and telling you. And I really was very, very fortunate to be able to befriend, so many of the original Shelby employees, many of them now gone,
Right.
but a lot of them became really close friends. Like Phil Remington was a really close friend, kind of my hero.
Hmm.
But you get the stories right from the source, and I always felt it was my duty to preserve that history and write it down and write it
Sure.
down accurately. Like I would write a chapter and I would send it to Phil Remington's daughter. She would print it and give it to him, and he would go and redline it
Oh, awesome.
and send it back.
Yeah.
And it was funny because he'd say, no, 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 yes, never saw it this way, but you're right.
Right. Oh, I love that. But I hope you saved all those too, because that's
Oh
gold
yeah,
right there. I mean, that's
yeah,
amazing stuff. It's interesting. The same thing kind of has happened with Harry Hurst with his Glory Days of Racing on Facebook, where all these people are just like congregating on this site, and pictures are showing up that have never been seen before, and somebody's got to save all this stuff.
right. And the Henry Ford. They dig through archives and they find pictures. Like the last book I just did, which just came out last year, late last year, 2022, I should say.
Right.
Shelby American 60 Years. I found the Miles Collier. His foundation had a ton of pictures.
Right.
The Henry Ford. I've gotten really close with some of those guys, and they're like, we have some new pictures that have come up when we were digging through Broncos stuff,
Right.
with the new Bronco coming out.
Oh
It's
yeah.
amazing how stuff just finds its way to the surface.
Sure.
And if you never saw before, there's a local photographer here in Milwaukee who's in his mid 80s, I think. And, he said, "Oh, you're doing a book on Cobras." I took a bunch of pictures at Road America, and he has these amazing photos of the Shelby team rolling in 1963,
Oh.
Road America 500. Like nobody's ever seen these.
Right. Right.
I gotta put them in a book.
Yeah, so there's another book. So you got to do another
Right.
book, right? You have no
I'm done.
choice at this
I'm
point.
done.
You're not done. I got to see the Simeone Library, which is amazing down here close to us in Philly. Have you've been
Yes.
to the Simeone? I'm certain
Yes.
of. It's an amazing place. It really is. And to see the back workings of where Dr. Fred worked and did his research and marked and checked and put tabs here and there, and it was like being in, I don't know, Nirvana. I don't know how to describe it. It was as cool being in there as it was being in the museum part of the building.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was a true enthusiast. He
Oh,
he understood how cars worked and what made cars important.
hmm.
Just like Miles Collier. These guys were there to preserve history, and they're there, making sure it lives and it stays, not messed with. You
Yeah.
don't want this history being changed or erased. With
Right.
thank God we're out of the restore everything phase.
Exactly. I'm 100% behind you on that. I think that there's so many cars need to be. I love to see the Cobra Daytona in as race condition. That's brilliant. I mean,
Yes.
most rich guys would just say, make it perfect. I want this. I want that. That's resto mods, which is a whole nother subject of, anyway,
Yeah.
they're part of the hobby, whether we like it or not,
Right.
and
Right.
it's a shame on some cars and other cars that didn't. I mean, I have a 68 Camaro convertible here on consignment with a a 6-cylinder and a 2-speed power glide, and
Yeah.
that's a perfect candidate for somebody to say, we're gonna change this. We're gonna make this a resto mod.
It's also a perfect candidate for somebody to buy for their 16-year-old kid,
Exactly.
father-son project, father-daughter project,
Hmm.
nice, safe, dependable. Those things are bulletproof.
Oh my God.
I mean, somebody could
Absolutely.
have that car and be the coolest kid in high school to drive something vintage, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Are there still hidden Cobras and Shelby products that are not found, that are sitting in barns, or even significant ones that are missing and probably out there somewhere?
Yeah. It's funny. The numbers are getting smaller, but I've been fortunate enough to find so many, hidden gems and barn finds. I hate to say barn finds because you're Shelby's in a garage,
Right.
but they're still out there. And it's amazing. I mean, there's still some original owners, one owner Cobras and stuff like that. They're, like I said, the numbers are getting really small,
Sure.
but they're still around and still out there. And, with any car, I mean, you can find anything.
Right.
And that's the thrill. That's for me.
Yeah.
It's the hunt right there.
Yeah.
It's like you find something that hasn't been on the market, hasn't been restored, hasn't been messed with. And it's like, man, that makes you wake up the next day and try to do it again.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of the guys in the hobby are the ones who are, I call, the luckiest ones in the hobby because they have created something that people call them with these cars now. They don't put them out on the market. They call, whoever the collector of the week or year is, and they say, hey, we've got this car. You want it? You interested? And it's click, yes, gone in a truck and trailer with cash, and don't hesitate. Listen, if you got time, we'd love to have you on for the third segment. We got plenty more to talk about if you've got a few more minutes.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back with the Classic Auto Mall podcast in just a couple of minutes.
You've been listening to the Classic Auto Mall podcast with your host, Stewart Howden.